Today I'm going to be talking about vegans. So, if there's any vegans watching, hopefully you can apply some of the tips, tricks and diet hacks that I'm going to say in this video into your diet. Now, for a bit of context, the vegan population in the UK has quadrupled over the past 4 years, from 150,000 to 600,000, with 42% of those making the change in 2018 alone. So the vegan boom is upon us. Now, this is actually one of the main reasons why I thought I'd make this video, because I think there's a lot of vegans jumping onto the vegan diet at the moment, and recently jumped onto the vegan diet, as we know, with the growth in the past 4 years. But there's a lot of them doing it and they don't actually know what they're putting themselves into. And for ethical reasons, I completely understand. But in terms of a health perspective, you're going to be at more risk of deficiency due to cutting out 2 major food groups. And unless you have the knowledge to construct and compose a diet and know what nutrients you're going to be at risk and how you can include them into your diet, you're going to be at deficiency. So I feel like you need to know what you need to put into your diet and into your foods to make sure you're getting these nutrients and you're staying healthy. And linking on just from that last point, in today's society, I think when you think of a vegan, you think of someone who eats lots of dark green leafy vegetables, lots of grains, lots of nuts and seeds, like an array of colours in their diet, lots of fruit and vegetables and things like that. But I don't think that's the case. And of course, there's more things on the market now. There's more processed foods. There's more fast food outlets for vegans now, and with the movement growing so quickly, I feel like people need to know what to put in their mouths, because as they are at higher risk of deficiency, they need to be more proactive in looking for them nutrients to make sure they're not deficient. Now, nutrients such as omega-3, B12, iodine, calcium, iron and zinc are going to be the most nutrients that you're going to have to go looking for, because predominantly they're the ones that come from the food groups that you're cutting out. And in today's video, I'm going to show you a few foods and a few tips and tricks on how you can include those nutrients into your diet. So basically, eat your greens. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's lots of vegans out there that are really healthy and are including an array of colours in their diet and making sure they're including the nutrients that they are at a heightened risk of. And yes, I agree that this is going to be a really healthy way of life, because the majority of your diet is going to be including lots of vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals and antioxidants that are going to protect, prevent and promote your health over time. So as I said earlier on in this video, there are 6 nutrients that you're going to be at heightened risk of. And a little bit later on, I'm going to go into each of those nutrients. I'm going to look at the daily dose, and I'm going to look at certain foods that you can eat to make sure you're getting enough of each. But firstly, I'm just going to cover a few easy diet hacks that you can apply in your diet that don't really take too much thought and act as an insurance, like a bit of an insurance policy. So insurance policy number 1 is make sure you eat an array of colours in your diet. The more colours you get, the more nutrients you get, the healthier you are, the happier you are. Insurance policy number 2, make sure you're picking the right carbohydrates in your diet. Now, when we're talking about carbohydrates, we're usually talking about 2 in general. This is going to be simple and complex. And this is only describing their structure. So simple carbohydrates having a small and simple structure, and complex carbohydrates having a long and complex structure. And when we're talking about these carbohydrates, we usually relate it to something called a glycemic index. And this is the spike in blood glucose you have after ingesting these carbohydrates. Now, if you were to opt for refined sugars and sugary foods, these are going to be simple in structure. Therefore, when you ingest them, they're going to give you a spike in energy and it's not going to last very long. Now, if you opt for something that's higher in fibre and higher in complex carbs, something like rice, whole grains, pasta, whole grain bread, something like that, this is going to give you sustainable energy for over a longer period of time. So stay away from refined sugars and eat more fibre and complex carbs. Insurance policy number 3. Now, in this one, we're talking about two things in particular: saturated fat and processed foods. And they kind of go side by side. So, what you want to do is make sure you're avoiding foods that are high in saturated fat. And one way you can do this is when you look at the nutrition labels and you see saturated fat, and it'll be in red if it's high. And that is when you see the red and you think, maybe I should avoid that. That's usually right. And alongside that, processed foods. Obviously, we don't want to include many processed foods in our diet, and a lot of processed foods are going to be higher in saturated fat anyway. And this is why they run side by side. Tip number 4, make sure your diet is rich in protein. Now, I'm pretty sure vegans, and especially vegans that go to the gym, they get a lot of questions around, well, how do you get your protein? Well, what sources can you get your protein in? And what I'm trying to say is be well equipped to answer that question, because you can be well equipped. There's lots of foods that are high in plant-based protein, for example, like beans, pulses, soy products, tofu, tempeh, all these good things that you should include in your diet. Tip number 5 is going to be eat and make as many home-cooked meals as you can. Now, not only are your taste buds going to thank you for this, because you can make things just how you like them, you can cook them how you like them, you can include all the food you like, but you're also going to make sure there's no added extra salt, there's no added extra sugar, saturated fat, there's no processing going on, and you're using fresh ingredients. So those tips and tricks are pretty broad, they're pretty wide range, and they're not going to be very specific, but they are going to make sure you're staying healthy if you abide by them. Now, in the second part of the video, I'm just going to be talking about the nutrients that you're at high risk of, and some foods and the daily dosage of what you should be eating to make sure you're getting enough of these nutrients. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is omega-3s. Now, this is usually found in fish, and it's recommended that you should have between 200 and 500 milligrams per day. And because you're not eating fish, obviously you're going to have to get that from elsewhere. Now, food sources, for example, like flaxseed, rapeseed oil, hemp seeds, walnuts, chia seeds, and ground linseed are great sources for vegans to get some omegas in your diet. The next one I'm going to talk about is iodine. Now, this is one that's actually commonly forgotten about, and it's quite interesting because I'm doing a study at the moment for my master's, and me and my colleague who I'm working with, we put a questionnaire out there asking loads of lifestyle questions, a little food for each questionnaire, and what supplements do you take? And I was looking through the results the other day, and it was actually ridiculous how many vegans did not supplement with iodine. Now, iodine's essential because it's used in your thyroid and for the production of hormones, and hormones are absolutely essential within your body, and you need these. So vegans need to be very diligent and get that iodine. Now, it usually comes from like dairy products and fish, but because they're not eating those, they're going to have to get it from elsewhere. Now, you need 150 micrograms of this per day, and iodine actually comes from the soil, and it's actually quite dependent on how much iodine is in the soil. So it depends on how much iodine is in your food. So it comes from things like dark leafy greens, seaweed, things like that, but you can actually buy iodized salt nowadays, which is quite a common used method with vegans around the world. They can salt their food with iodized salt to make sure they're not deficient in iodine. Now, there are other things like strawberries and kale and things like that, but they're not very high, so taking an iodine supplement might not be a bad idea. The next nutrient I'm going to talk about is iron. Now, iron is absolutely essential in your body for carrying oxygen around the blood to the muscles. So if you have no iron, you're not really going to get anywhere. So it's absolutely essential that you eat foods that are high in iron. Now, red meat is usually one of the primary sources for someone who's an omnivore, but because you cut that out of your diet, you want to be eating things like lentils, chickpeas, pulses, beans, nuts, broccoli, quinoa, and there's also fortified products like fortified cereals on the market now that contain a lot of iron. And you need 7 milligrams per day, and women need just over that at around 50 milligrams per day, and that's because they lose a little bit more blood than us guys. Nutrient number 5 is calcium. Now, calcium is absolutely essential in our body for healthy teeth and bones. It's also used in every muscle around our body for muscle activation, things like that, and it's also used for blood clotting, and it's essential. So you need around 700 milligrams per day. This is one of the ones you need more of. And things like fortified plant-based milks, I've got a good almond milk and a good soya milk that are fortified with calcium. Green leafy vegetables, broccoli, tahini if you like hummus, make some hummus and put some tahini in there, some sesame seeds, and actually in the UK, calcium's fortified in flour, so make some cookies, use loads of flour, get your calcium. Last but not least is vitamin B12. Now, vitamin B12 is essential for nerve and brain functioning, so you have to get it in your diet because you're not really going to get very far without it. You need 1.5 micrograms per day, and one of the best ways you can get it in is actually fortified plant-based milks and cereals. Nowadays, a lot of them have B12 along with an array of other nutrients, but another good way is a multivitamin. I take these multi-vegan gummies. If it focuses. These are really easy. I have 4 of these a day. They taste like Maynard Sport Mix. They're so nice. I wish I could eat them all day. And they have 100% of your vitamin B12 in them. And they're so easy, and they're just an insurance policy, so you're not deficient. So take your supplements. So there you go, there's some easy insurance tips and tricks and a little bit in-depth knowledge on nutrients, daily dosage and how you can get them in your diet, and a little bit of stuff on supplements as well. But if you have any questions, just leave them down below and I'll be sure to answer them. Yeah, I know this has been me sat behind my desk just speaking to a camera, but I can't really do much because it's lockdown. But I hope this has helped a few people out there, and if it has, let me know. I'll see you in the next one. One more thing, I also understand that's a lot of information to take in at once, so I've made this little take-home messages table sheet. I'm going to put up on the screen now, and if you want to screenshot it, put it anywhere, whatever, but then you can see and it's easy to read and stuff. So yeah, there you go.